Some differences in cultures are easy to identify and explain. Styles of dress, food, religious practices, and music are some of the more obvious indicators of culture. But what about the more subtle differences that exist between cultures? How do minor differences in values or norms affect how people from different cultures communicate? That is the focus of this lesson on cultural norms and values. In this lesson, we will investigate 5 factors that can influence how people from differing cultural backgrounds may communicate. These factors include high versus low context communication styles, individualism and collectivism, power distance, uncertainty avoidance, and achievement versus nurturing cultures. The first factor, high and low context communication styles, is likely the easiest to view through the lens of communication. Edward T. Hall, an anthropologist, focused on identifying differences in cultures with regard to how messages are delivered. He classifies cultures into one of 2 categories. A low context culture relies heavily on the use of language to deliver messages and communicate ideas, thoughts, and feelings. The use of language makes the delivery of messages very direct. For low context communicators, the meaning of the message is largely in the words used to convey the message. The United States and Northern European nations typically demonstrate low context communication styles. On the other hand, a high context culture relies more on subtle, often nonverbal or relational cues to convey meaning. This does not mean they don't use language to communicate ideas, thoughts, and feelings, but the meaning of the message is often connected more strongly to nonverbal or contextual cues in the interaction. Most Asian and Middle Eastern nations demonstrate high context communication styles. As a result of these differences, low context communicators are perceived as overly talkative or chatty by high context communicators. And conversely, high context communicators are often perceived as reserved or even unclear because of their hesitance to directly address conflict and their tendency to not verbally express disagreement or outright rejection of ideas. The second cultural norm is individualism and collectivism. Members of individualist cultures are focused on what is best for the individual. The United States often scores the highest in rankings of individualism. The United States is a me-focused culture, and citizens often connect value to their individual accomplishments. This may seem counterintuitive because our culture loves team sports. However, we also tend to recognize and celebrate the superstars of these teams rather than the team accomplishments. Members of collectivist cultures are more group-oriented. They place higher value in the connections they have to others in their groups, like colleagues, families, and communities. They will often sacrifice personal gain for the good of the group. Also, when decisions are made, members of collectivist cultures will normally seek what is best for the group than the individual. Asia, Middle Eastern, and Central American countries tend to be collectivist societies. Because the values of individualism and collectivism influence a communicator's self-concept, these cultural values influence our communication and how we perceive the communication of others. Individualists will be more outspoken, while collectivists may be more reticent or apprehensive in their communication. The next cultural norm is power distance. Power distance refers to the degree to which members of a culture will accept an unequal distribution of power among its members. High power distance cultures will have clear distinctions among different groups in the culture and the amount of power each group possesses. Groups may be based on economic classes or religious affiliations, for instance. Examples of high power distance cultures include Mexico, Singapore, and India. Low power distance cultures view all citizens as equal and with equal rights. This is the basis of the United States Constitution, which declares all are created equal. Along with the United States, Canada, Austria, Denmark, and New Zealand are some of the cultures with the lowest levels of power distance. The dynamics of power distance are manifested in relationships among members of the culture. Children in a high power distance culture are expected to show obedience to their parents and others in authority. Consider this dynamic in the classroom, where students in high power distance cultures are either not allowed or strongly discouraged from questioning or challenging their teachers. In low power distance cultures, citizens are encouraged and sometimes even championed for questioning authority in the status quo. They expect a certain amount of independence and the freedom to make their own decisions. The fourth cultural norm is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance relates to how comfortable members of cultures are with the unknown. Cultures that feel relatively unthreatened by change are considered low in uncertainty avoidance. The United States, Great Britain, and Hong Kong are cultures with low uncertainty avoidance. High uncertainty avoidance cultures include Japan, Greece, and Portugal. The level of uncertainty avoidance in a culture may be reflected in how members of these cultures communicate. Low uncertainty avoidance cultures will be more tolerant of individuals whose ideas do not fit the status quo or the mainstream. In high uncertainty avoidance cultures, these situations would be perceived as undesirable or even dangerous. The fifth and final cultural norm is achievement cultures versus nurturing cultures. Nurturing cultures value the development and nurturing of relationships as a noble goal. Achievement cultures tend to see a greater value in material success. As a result, those who are successful in achievement-oriented culture feel no apprehension in voicing their opinions and ideas and may even feel entitled to do so. Those who are not successful do not share this privilege. In nurturing cultures, all individuals are valued, regardless of level of success, and the self-esteem of those who are less capable may be bolstered when they are given the opportunity to share their opinions or ideas. With a greater understanding of the cultural norms and values, we gain insight into the communication behaviors of members of these cultures. In addition, our ability to critically analyze messages through the lens of these cultural norms and values increases our ability to more effectively communicate with those from different cultural backgrounds.